Today we are studying Transcendentalism, which is a very important topic in American literature. Remember, this is not just a literary movement, but also a philosophical and spiritual movement. In competitive exams, questions may come as, define Transcendentalism, explain its philosophy, name its practitioners, so keep that exam angle in mind while listening. This slide explains what Transcendentalism means. The movement believed that human beings are naturally good, not sinful by birth. It also believed that nature is divine, meaning nature reflects God and spiritual truth. Another very important idea here is that truth does not come from logic, science, or institutions like church. Truth comes from intuition, that is, our inner feeling or inner voice. When the slide says, the individual soul transcends material reality, it means the soul goes beyond money, machines, and physical life. Spiritual life is higher than material life. The word transcendental comes from Immanuel Kant, who said that some knowledge goes beyond sense experience. The standard exam definition at the bottom is very important and can be written directly in exams. Origin of Transcendentalism. This slide tells us about the origin. Transcendentalism originated in 19th century America, mainly in New England. This point is important because examiners often ask, is Transcendentalism a European movement? The answer is no. It is a purely American movement. This slide explains why Transcendentalism developed. First, it was a reaction against rationalism and empiricism. Rationalism depended on reason. Empiricism depended on sense experience. Transcendentalists rejected both and believed that truth comes from inner intuition and spiritual experience. Next, the slide explains the influence of Romanticism. They shared romantic ideas like emotion over reason, nature as sacred, celebration of the individual. But remember, Romanticism is mainly emotional and artistic. Transcendentalism is philosophical and spiritual. This slide continues the background. German philosophers like Immanuel Kant and Fichte influenced Transcendentalism. They believed that reality is shaped by the human mind. Moral law comes from within the individual. The next part is very important for exams, Eastern philosophy. Transcendentalists read Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Buddhist texts. They borrowed ideas like universal soul, unity of all existence. This shows Indian philosophy's influence on Emerson and Thoreau. This slide explains the social situation of America. America was facing rapid industrial growth, loss of spiritual values, slavery, gender inequality, material obsession. Because of this, Transcendentalism became a moral and spiritual reform movement, not just a theory. This slide introduces the core beliefs. The first belief is the Oversoul, a term coined by Emerson. It means a universal spiritual force connecting God, nature, human beings. Individual souls are parts of the Oversoul. Next belief, innate goodness of man. Humans are naturally good, and evil is caused by society. Then comes nature as divine. Nature is sacred and acts as a symbol of God. Communion with nature leads to spiritual enlightenment. This slide continues the beliefs. Self-reliance means, trust yourself. Reject conformity. Follow your inner voice. Intuition over reason means, intuition is superior to logic. Moral truth is felt, not learned from books. This slide explains how Transcendentalism works in practice. Individualism means the individual conscience is supreme and society corrupts the individual. Spirituality without organized religion means rejection of church authority and dogma. God is experienced directly. Nature worship means nature is a teacher, healer, and moral guide. This slide continues the features. Idealism focuses on ideas, spirit, and moral perfection, not matter. Social reform orientation shows their support for abolition of slavery, women's rights, educational reform, prison reform. Non-conformity means opposition to social norms, material success, and blind tradition. This slide introduces Ralph Waldo Emerson. He is the founder and chief theorist. His important works include Nature and Self-Reliance. His key ideas are Oversoul, self-trust, spiritual democracy. He is called the Sage of Concord. This slide focuses on Henry David Thoreau and Margaret Fuller. Thoreau believed in simple living, harmony with nature, moral resistance to unjust laws. He influenced leaders like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Margaret Fuller was a feminist transcendentalist who supported women's intellectual equality. This slide again highlights Margaret Fuller, exam emphasis. It also introduces Bronson Alcott, educational reformer, Theodore Parker, anti-slavery activist. This slide lists key texts like Nature, Self-Reliance, Walden, Civil Disobedience. It also mentions The Dial, the official Transcendentalist journal edited by Margaret Fuller. This slide shows how Transcendentalism influenced American literature. It shaped themes like nature, individual freedom, spiritual quest, moral idealism. Till now we have seen the beauty and idealism of Transcendentalism. But no philosophical movement is perfect, and this slide shows how critics viewed Transcendentalism. 1. Too idealistic. Critics argued that Transcendentalism lives in an ideal world, not the real one. Transcendentalists believed humans are naturally good. Society alone causes evil. But critics asked, is every human really good by nature? Can society alone be blamed for all crimes and cruelty? In real life, poverty, hunger, violence, and politics cannot be solved by intuition and nature worship alone. Exam tip. Write this as Transcendentalism ignores practical realities of life. 2. Lack of structure. Another major criticism is that Transcendentalism has no clear system or doctrine. Unlike Christianity, Bible, Marxism, clear ideology, utilitarianism, clear principles, Transcendentalism has no fixed rules. No single philosophy. Vague ideas like intuition and inner voice. This made critics say that it is unclear and loosely defined. In exams, this is often written as philosophically vague and unstructured. 3. Elitist in nature. Critics felt that Transcendentalism was meant only for educated people, intellectual elites. Why? Because ideas like Kant's philosophy, Upanishads, abstract spirituality are not easily understood by common people, farmers, or laborers. So critics argued, Transcendentalism speaks about humanity, but not to the masses. 4. Escapist philosophy. This is a very important criticism. Critics said Transcendentalists escaped from political struggle, avoided economic and social realities, instead of actively fighting poverty, capitalism, class struggle. They focused on personal salvation, inner peace, nature walks. Examine a friendly line. Transcendentalism retreats into spiritual isolation instead of social action. Decline of Transcendentalism. Now class, let us understand why such a powerful movement declined. 1. Internal contradictions. Transcendentalists preached simple living, rejection of materialism, but many of them lived comfortable intellectual lives, did not fully practice what they preached. This contradiction weakened the movement. 2. Rise of new philosophies. By the mid-19th century, America moved towards realism, right-pointing arrow, focus on real social life. Pragmatism, right-pointing arrow, what works in practice. Compared to these, Transcendentalism felt dreamy and impractical, so people slowly moved away from it. 3. Impact of the American Civil War. The Civil War exposed brutality, violence, political conflict. In such a situation, people wanted practical solutions, political reform, not abstract spiritual ideas. Thus, the movement naturally declined. Class. Decline does not mean failure. Transcendentalism left a deep and permanent impact. 1. American Romanticism. It strengthened love for nature, individual freedom, emotional depth. Many American writers absorbed these ideas. 2. Environmentalism, the idea that nature is sacred. Humans must live in harmony with nature. Directly influenced modern environmental movements. Thoreau's Walden is often quoted in ecological studies. 3. Civil rights movement, the belief in individual conscience. Moral resistance to unjust laws. Inspired leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., especially through Thoreau's civil disobedience. 4. Modern spiritual thought. Even today, ideas like inner peace, spiritual self-discovery, meditation, reflect transcendentalist thinking. This slide is a goldmine for exams. These lines help you write conclusions, answer MCQs, score extra marks. Examples. Nature is the manifesto of transcendentalism. Emerson is the philosopher. Thoreau is the practitioner. Oversoul represents universal spiritual unity. Tip. Use one nugget in every long answer. This final slide is for last-minute revision. The mnemonic helps you recall core ideas. Philosophy. Features. During exams, when memory fails, this mental map saves you. So, with this, we come to the end of our discussion on Transcendentalism, one of the most powerful and influential movements in American literature and philosophy. What Transcendentalism finally teaches us is very simple but very profound. That truth does not always come from books, institutions, or society, but from within the individual, through intuition, conscience, and spiritual awareness. Through thinkers like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, we saw how ideas such as self-reliance, the oversoul, and the divinity of nature challenged materialism, blind tradition, and social conformity. Even though Transcendentalism was criticized for being idealistic and eventually declined, its influence did not end. Its ideas continue to live on in environmentalism, civil rights movements, and modern spiritual thought. For competitive exams, remember this clearly. Transcendentalism is not just a literary movement. It is a way of thinking, a moral philosophy, and an American response to spiritual crisis. If you understand its philosophy, features, practitioners, criticism, and legacy, you are already ahead. Thank you for watching. If this explanation helped you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exam-oriented literature lectures.